I believe we've been joined by Nana Kwasi Jan Appenteng on the phone. Actually, we're working on that. We haven't connected with him yet, but as soon as we do, he'll be joining our conversation. In the meantime, here in the studio, we have Togbe, Kwasinyi, Kakaklolo, Agyeman, the fifth Dufia of Adidome, and obviously a communications for social change advocate. The other communications for development advocate is Georgina Asare Fiagbenu. She's also an author, and Nana Jan Appenteng will be joining us later. So listen, let's get started. The scope of the conversation is obvious. I mean, we're talking about time and our failure as a nation to stick to it. But how does it present? How does it manifest? In what ways are we failing to respect our time and the time of others? Perhaps I'll start with you, Georgina. Oh, actually, before we come to you, we've been talking to a few Ghanaians. Okay. We've been asking them when was the last time they were on time to an event. Let's hear some of their responses.
When it comes to programs that I am organizing myself, definitely I get there before the program starts. I get away before time so that I can arrange and get everything ready by the time the program is starting. For instance, I'm invited to, let's say, a naming ceremony, a wedding, or even a formal program. The truth is, I'll give myself 30 minutes. So, for instance, if I've been asked to arrive by 9 a.m., I'll make sure that I get there by 9:30 a.m. Reason being that, time is very precious, and I wouldn't want to come sit around and now wait for everybody to come. I would be wasting time. I think that the general timing for Ghanaians is really, really terrible, and I think that if we can do something about it, it's going to help all of us.
I arrived at an event way earlier on Monday. The event was supposed to start at 10, but I was there before 8:30. That is quite subjective because everybody and how they behave towards time. Some people are rather early to events, others are extremely late. We need to do better as a people. We need to be time conscious because it affects our productivity greatly.
Last year, the time was 8 o'clock and I got there 7:15 because I needed to be there early to check everything that is going on, to get aware of everything that they are doing and have pre-knowledge before they start their program. So we Ghanaians, we don't follow time as well. Some of us, when they say the time is 8, we get here by 8:30 or 9. We are not punctual with our time and we are not consistent with our time. We always go against time. That is very bad of most Ghanaians.
I normally arrive on time, actually before time, before an event starts, because I am always time conscious. Ghanaians' attitude towards time is nothing to write home about, because mostly due to the norm that's Ghana time has affected our attitude towards time management, and we are not able to achieve a lot within a time frame. That's very typical of Ghanaians. I would say it's due to improper planning and procrastination.
I usually don't arrive at events on time, so I don't remember the last time I went for an event on time. Well, to talk about our attitude towards time management or time to an event, I think that we Ghanaians, we feel that we have our own time called Ghanaman time. So when there's an event, we usually come 30 minutes after the time or sometimes 1 hour after the time. That's our attitude towards time. Yeah. It's very typical. People will call for an event and they themselves do not, prepare for the event early. They sometimes, waste a lot of time doing preparations as when people are seated and they are still doing preparations. So it's very typical of we Ghanaians.
To what we've just heard. What are your thoughts on it, Georgina?
No, it's interesting the way they put it, but they've just told us what the issue is. And I believe all of us, many of us can say that we are guilty as charged, because this is something that, affects all of us. We are all in it. And at one point or the other, we all feel, to respond to time appropriately or to respect time. And, like we were talking behind the scenes, sometimes in Ghana, if you are that early, you are seen as a nuisance. And I heard Uncle Ibuwai talking about the fact that when you do the right thing in Ghana, you are seen as wicked, too known, too something. Why are you on time? And of course, we'll try and analyze it, because it's been a difficult path, for those of us who are advocating for timekeeping. But if you analyze it and break it further, it's not just about arriving to events on time. It's also, does the event even consider how much time you have to spend there? Because you realize that most of the activities we hold, we never put the end time to it. True. We just say we are starting at 3 p.m. and we are all guilty. 3 p.m. closing at what time? So that a person can plan. We never think about that. We all say the event starts at 3. And some even say it starts at 3 for 3:30 or 3 for 4. I've seen invitations which say arrive is
2:30 for 3 p.m.
2:30 for 3 p.m., which means we know that people will be late. And then, even our response to issues, so it goes beyond just arrival and closing of events. So we don't want people to think that it's an event matter. It's a matter of, our lives, our productivity, our national planning, because even when we launch projects, when we commission projects, who even goes back to say, we said we're going to build this road, we just commissioned or initiated it today, and it's going to take 2 years or 4 years, and sometimes 10 years, that road is still under construction. We initiate projects, people send emails, and we say we'll respond within 48 hours, and we never respond, sometimes a year. So almost everyone is guilty, with the exception of a few, because you may say, oh, I arrived to work on time. But what about responding to issues? What about tracking projects? What about, keeping to your promises that, sometimes you are working, someone calls you, I'll get back to you in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes. And then for 1 week, you've forgotten about it. So it's a very difficult issue, very complex. And we need to break it down. Otherwise, people will think it's just about arriving early or late.
There's so many facets to it. I'm glad you've brought out all the other ways in which we fail to respect time. So let's start breaking it down. I mean, Togbe, where did this come from? How did we become so oblivious to even the concept of time? Today we're talking about examples of when you ask someone, what time are you going to get here? And he says, very soon.
Very soon. I'm coming.
We seem unable to even assign values, numeric values to time. Where did this come from? How did we become like this?
Thank you, Kojo. That is a multi-million-dollar question. And we have been trying to find out where this culture is it part of our culture? Is it in the DNA of the Ghanaian to be late all the time or not to respect time? So a few of us sat down. We saw that, everybody knew that this was a big problem in Ghana. However, it does not look like anybody is interested in tackling it. So few of us, myself, Gina, and Nana Kwasi Appenteng, we sat down. Normally when we meet, we discuss a lot of issues, social issues, national issues, and the rest. And so we said, can we do something about this? Can we try finding out why this thing persists in Ghana, and how can we use what we know best, communications, advocacy, to try to change the attitudes? And so we started this. We launched it and then try to have some mini dialogue sessions to tease out the issue, so we can call it the diagnosis or something like that. So we tried, so far we've had sessions trying to ask the question, where is this coming from? Is it from our culture? So we brought in a sociologist. He tried to look at the sociology of Ghana, and then why it is possible that this thing could be coming from our makeup as Ghanaian, our culture, and the rest. We try to look at the individuals, and then we try to look at systems. And the last person we hosted was Captain Kofi Mwabeng. That was about a couple of weeks ago. And he also brought a different dimension that I find quite interesting. And he was like, okay, so pre-independence, Ghana was largely not modern. We didn't have any systems. We were largely agrarians, and then people that were peasant farmers, and we had the whole space to ourselves. And if we periodically people gather in the open space, with our traditional settings, and then maybe have meetings. They can play the drum and do anything all day long, because they have all the time and the space for themselves.
Pre-colonialism.
So that was an angle he brought to the issue that I find quite interesting, also with my sociology background. So the questions are still being asked, but the answers we've gotten so far shows that it is definitely not in the DNA of the Ghanaian, because the Ghanaian lives here, goes abroad, and he, appreciate what time means. Yeah. They're never late to work. They know where to catch the bus to get to work. And why is it so? And I think you would agree with me largely that if you travel from outside, perhaps from Europe, and you go to Ghana, the moment you get to Kotoka, you realize that it's like you've just moved from a fast world into a slow-paced world. So something must be done. So the other people also, from our diagnosis, other people also mentioned systems. In areas where time is being respected, systems are in place. Yeah. Gina spoke about all of us are guilty, which I agree. But can you imagine that you desire to respect time, work on time, do everything on time, and you go to maybe chase a document somewhere and the system slows you down. You understand? So we are trying to look at it holistically. So after we have try to answer the questions, then we see we will probably have a national discussion and see how we can chart our path.
Can't wait for that. Nana John Appenteng is on the line. Nana, good morning to you.
Good morning, Kojo. Long time. How are you?
It's been a very long time, Nana. I'm very well, and I'm glad to hear your voice this morning.
Great.
Nana, we are trying to understand why. And Togbe raises a very interesting point here, that maybe the thing was lacking in our DNA to begin with, just because before colonialism, we had a system that wasn't really reliant on specificity of time. Things happened either in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. There wasn't that specificity. But we did have colonialism. People came from other parts of the world, brought technology, they brought, timekeeping. And in fact, until independence, our society was run as a British colony. Yeah. So you can imagine that things happened according to time. How did we sink back or deteriorate again into this laissez-faire attitude towards time?
Well, thank you, Kudu. I think my friends in the studio have broken this down. But let's look at a couple of the examples given by Togbe in order to understand this. So, for example, he says that when we travel abroad, then the individual Ghanaian conforms to the time pattern he or she finds himself they find themselves in. And he cites one interesting example. They know where to catch the bus and when to catch it.
Yes.
So if you have no bus to catch or no timetable for public transport, you have no obligation within yourself to do anything with public transport on time. So what it means is that we have not evolved our systems and processes to catch up with the modern living that is required for these times. So let me explain this. Time was calibrated differently. It is true. Thousands of years, the African time it didn't mean there was no timekeeping, but it was differently calibrated. And as you said, it could be we meet in the morning, afternoon, but people did things on time. They knew when to go to the farm. Nobody would wait until the sun was blazing to go to the farm. They knew when to go to the farm, when to come back, when to prepare lunch, when to go. So time was there, and they did it accordingly. And our systems worked so well for what we needed to do then. So much so that, let me give you an example that, for example, if a big chief dies today, even today, the people involved in the funeral will be in their thousands. Nobody has a script, but they know exactly what to do. So these things are passed down. But then we have a system that was brought in by the colonial rule, which was different from our original. And somehow we've never deliberately, worked to marry the two in a way that is convenient. So the same Ghanaian abroad who will go to work on time, when it comes to going to a Ghanaian funeral, and I've experienced this so many times in the UK where I live, the same Ghanaian who would be on time to work, if it was a Ghanaian event, they will still be late.
Yeah.
Because we expect everyone else to be late. And so one time I was invited to a funeral, in the UK, Ghanaian funerals are in the evening.
Yes.
So they say 6 o'clock on the card. 6 hours there. The doors to the hall have not, were not open. the organizers weren't there. So I slipped my condolence card and my check, under the door. Then 9 o'clock, somebody calls me, happily. Oh, Kwasi, where are you? I said, I'm at home.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to be here. I say, yes. You found my condolence card. Say, oh, but, I said, you said 6 o'clock. Say, oh, but aren't you a Ghanaian? When we say 6, we mean like 8, 9,
Wow.
Interesting.
And very casual. So we have a different time mentality when it comes to living our, if you like, quote unquote, cultural traditional life. But the demands of the system we are working in now around the 24-hour clock system means that we have to adapt and we have to change. And so far, nobody has deliberately made the effort. I mean, the school system, when you have to. But the moment we leave the formal system, we bring in our original time system. And now that has dominated and created a confusion.
Yeah.
So imagine that several years after independence, Trotro works the same way it worked when I was a child. Nobody has managed to change the system so that from Kaswa to wherever you have numbered Trotro and each moves within the next 5 minutes. No. They are still, the mates are still, waving their arms. La Paz, La Paz, La Paz. and my CABA, so everybody wants to get down when they want to get. I mean, it's a total mess. And this cannot be resolved just by appealing to people. We really need to have a conversation, a serious one about this. Why? Because the losses we are making with lateness and absenteeism, I think I read somewhere, somebody has done a calculation. Kojo, is it men? The psychological trauma, you arrive at a place, you are given the time, 10 o'clock, you arrive, and organizers. And then above all, now lateness is also tied to VIPism. So the more VIP you are, the later you arrive.
Yeah.
And so this has seeped into the consciousness that if I'm a big person, then I don't arrive early. And because we are all big persons, then nobody arrives early. It's a mess.
We've heard the many ways in which we fail to respect our own time and the time of others. It's not just about getting there before the event starts. Yeah. It's about knowing how long you're supposed to be there, about the timelines to the things you are supposed to deliver to your customers, to your clients, to your constituents, to even to your family members. When you say that you're going to do something by this time, do you do it? Are you even able to assign a time to the thing that you say you're going to do? When the mechanic says, "Oh, wait, maybe you say, do they mean they'll finish today or next week? Or I mean, what does it mean?" These are the things we're discussing today. Now, failure to stick to time comes at a cost. That's what I want us to explore next. Yeah. What is it costing us as a nation? This disability when it comes to time.
I like the way you put it.
Yeah, what is it costing us?
Yes, it's costing us a lot. And I'm just looking at this study, which we usually refer to. The source is not quoted, but it says here that studies estimate that tardiness cost the U.S. economy nearly $3 billion a year.
And that's them.
This is U.S.
They cry that's
nearly $3 billion a year. And when you consider that up to 20% of U.S. workers are regularly late to work, this staggering sum becomes easier to believe. So we are talking about chronic lateness. So someone has done a study and has said that 20% of employees, so he's just looking at even just the employee, lateness, and it's costing them $3 billion a year. So you can imagine ours in Ghana with the chronic lateness everywhere, every time, how much it's costing us. So the financial loss, the reputation loss. I mean, there was a time that we were listening to, I think was it the French ambassador or so, who was having a discussion with, is it Lexis Bill? Mm-hmm. And she said one of the things that shocked her when she came to Ghana was our attitude towards time. And she said, people, you have appointments, meetings, and people will say they will come at 10 and they show up at 12. And she was horrified, So even the reputation, the loss of reputation to Ghana, the financial loss, the development that we are losing, productivity, the morale, employee morale, I think that the cost is just unimaginable. Yeah. I'm not sure how we can cost it, but we need to do that because perhaps that will get us to sit up, and clearly define a plan of action that will help us. Because I remember that one of the things that got us to even start this initiative, I mean, I have a sociology background. Togbe also has it. And both of us are also doing communications as part of our work. He works at NITA as head of communication. I'm also head of communication. So between our sociology and communications, and we got into this discussion. What hit us at the time was we were talking about Vision 2020.
Right.
And we said at the time when we heard about Vision 2020, I was younger. And we had, it was, Vision 2020 was like, I don't know, maybe 30 years away. This was like around the PNDC days.
The 80s.
The 80s, and it was like, Vision 2020, how could we set it? When are we going to get there? And then we were there, and 2020 just passed. So for all these 30 years, the things we said we were going to do as a country, I mean, different subsequent governments have come. But what target did they set for this country, and where are we? And obviously in the situation that we are now, we all know that it's critical that we take time seriously because our sustainable development goals, the World Bank, everybody is talking about goals. We need to do this, we need to do that. Who is tracking them? Who is checking the time?
Yeah. I mean, we've all talked about how failure to stick to time means failure to plan. So as a nation, we don't plan. That surely must come with a cost as well, right?
Yes, definitely. Failing to plan, as you said, means that you do things haphazardly, all things being equal. And maybe you probably do not have a plan in place. And so there's nothing exists that gives you a timeline, because planning normally comes with timelines. and it also comes with cost. And most of the time we think about cost, the cost as in what we're spending to maybe execute something, but we do not cost what it will cost us if we did not
achieve
it. And that has been our problem. And so having said that, I think that if we could sit down as a country and imagine what we would have gained, where Ghana probably would have been now, how much would have been maybe in the national kitty if we had managed time better. When Gina was talking about the statistics about the US, I looked at one, I read one about the UK.
Yeah.
And this has to do with, and theirs is about 9 billion a month.
9 billion pounds.
Pounds a month. 9 billion pounds a month.
Jeez.
And this is a country you and I know, I believe you've lived there, and you and I know how serious I mean, they don't joke with timekeeping. Everything seemed to be on time. And yet you could have that much, quantify that much as a loss. And I saw another article, something written on Ghana as well. And it quotes the region of 50 billion cities. 15 billion Ghanaian cities.
Is it monthly or?
That's monthly. He says monthly, but I don't know how scientific this is. So, but of course if we can look at, I mean, what we're talking about, referring to the US and the UK.
Yeah.
Quantify. I mean, giving such values as what you're losing, then you can only imagine what Ghana would have gained if we had managed ourselves, plan well, manage our time better. For instance, Kujo, we live along the Insawam Road. The amount of time we spent in traffic, I estimated that daily, I mean, together with all my daily rounds and everything, I spent about 5 hours driving. And this is just about a 30-kilometer journey to my office, which under normal circumstances, if I came to an event in Accra town, let's say from maybe the National Theatre or Conference Center, and I'm traveling back home, let's say at midnight, I make it in 30 minutes, in less than 30 minutes, most of the time. So if we are talking about time, we should also be talking about other things that affect us or that impact the reason why we're not able to keep time. So our road networks. Our road network is one of them. Our road is quite terrible. And you can imagine the cost to my pocket, the fuel. And in this heat, you probably have to use the AC. And so if we want to quantify it in that terms, the cost to the individual, and then what the family would have saved, and that could be used for something else for the family, and then you escalate it towards the bigger family, and then bring it up to the national level, then we know that you can imagine that we are losing a lot.
Nana, I want to move from this issue of how much it's costing us into the another thing. So yeah, it's costing us because we can't plan. And Togbe points out how our road network contributes to this. So I have an example. The Accra-Tema motorway was constructed in 1965. It's now 58 years old. The total lifespan of a concrete motorway is 50 years. That is the maximum that you can use a motorway for. Ours is 8 years past its expiry. And because we failed to plan, so first of all, the expiry date has come and passed. We're still using the motorway beyond its expiry. But also because we are never honest about timelines, we have been promising to fix that motorway, to redo that motorway. Every year we set a timeline. Every year we put it in the budget. Every year we fail to do it. I'm interested in how our failure to stick to time has made us into a dishonest people. Or is it a chicken and egg? Is it because we are dishonest that we fail to stick to time? Which one comes first, Nana?
That is That is putting it with impressive brutality. Now, you see, everything works with everything else. And so, the 50 years, for example, that you cite for the motorway, that would be 50 years with planned maintenance. And all that. So when you take it that we didn't even maintain it, then it wasn't going to last for 50 years. So it started deteriorating even before the 50 years.
Yeah.
The point here is this, that our lack of time planning dovetails into lack of proper maintenance, dovetails into lack of proper this and the other thing. So it's an all-encompassing situation we are in. And we to begin to unravel this and take it strand by strand is necessary. But probably will be so much time consuming that there would be no time to do anything else.
Yeah.
So then how do we approach this? Clearly, one example we all cite is that nobody arrives late when they are traveling by air.
Right.
These are the same Ghanaians. We are all in this country. Bad traffic and everything else. If you know that the plane is not going to wait for you, we are all on time, or mostly all of us are on time. And so it tells us that if we have a system of sanctions, a system of punishment and reward, then at least within the public sphere, we would be able to behave in a certain way. If you take the flight analogy to another example, you see that when people know that they are going to collect money, we are never late. People will get up at dawn to go and harass people who owe them or people who have promised them money. They will be there on time. If you tell somebody, in fact, me, for example, today, if you tell me, because I need money, if you say to me, come at 9 o'clock, I'll be there at 8:30.
Yeah.
So it's clear that when it suits up, but we have not created a system that makes the whole reward and punishment thing, which is the psychology of life. We have not incorporated it, and therefore, lateness and things like that have all become quote unquote normal. And that is where the real problem, the psychology of it, the psyche, and to change that. First of all, do we agree? Because when we had Captain Kofi Amwabe on the other day, as we already alluded to, he said, the system is such a mess that probably we cannot change because you have to change the whole atmosphere. I don't agree fully. I agree with his analysis, but I think that even within that constraint, we have to start enforcing some rules. So, for example, the public sector, civil service, public services and all that, people are paid to do a certain amount of work. When they do not turn up at all or turn up late, it means they are shortchanging the taxpayer or whoever is paying them. And if we were to begin to extract some kind of sanction for lateness and all that, and this became public in what in our program we are calling naming and shaming, that, for example, if we encourage each other to put on, social media. I attended this meeting. That minister was supposed to come at 10. She came at 1 o'clock. And if repeatedly we will do this, at least we'll begin in some small but significant way to create a new mindset. Because at the moment, it is totally absent. And yet, when it suits us, we can be on time. That means the more we can create the conditions so that being on time will be beneficial to us collectively and individually, then we'll begin to take some steps. But at the moment, the one difficulty we have is that those who should lead by example, because we call them leaders, these are politicians in government or whatever, members of parliament, chiefs, DC, anybody who has any feeling of importance or, ironically, responsibility, thinks it is almost unethical to arrive on time. How can we change this mindset except by rewarding and punishing accordingly?
Yeah.
But I get your point, Kojo, that, and the point made by Togbe, that, for example, if the traffic is not moving, what are you going to do? Which means that in thinking about this, let me go back to my Trotro example. I'm surprised that with all the people who have been in government traveling in and out, it has not occurred to us that buses in, say, the UK also started like our Trotro system. Each owned by individuals. They are still owned by individual companies. But they've coordinated it to understand that you don't need to move in and out of traffic if you travel on the Kasua road. The main cause of traffic is indiscipline. It's just Trotro drivers thinking that, they must move. They'll move 50 meters just to pick one passenger.
Yeah.
And let me take a bit of just small time to give you an example. We went to Hong Kong for a conference. When we got there, the 5 Ghanaians were looking for a taxi and hailing every taxi. None was stopping until somebody saw our plight and said, no, you can't, taxis are not allowed to stop. You have to go to their, and showed us how to find a taxi station. In Ghana, everybody wants to take the taxi, the Trotro, everything in front of their house or in front of their shop. And so the drivers conform accordingly.
Yeah.
And this wastes a lot of time. So can't we reform this simple part of our lives? And so I'm agreeing with you at saying that instead of saying we need to reform the whole big system before we can get time moving, if we can isolate some instances where we can work using rewards and punishment, making sure that people know it is in their interest. Because if you go to the hospital and doctors and nurses are all late, what's going to happen to you?
Yeah.
So we have to let people begin to understand that when you are late for something, remember the other person too could be late and it could not be in your interest.
Yeah.
But all that will come through the idea which I think Togbe and Mama Dina have already mentioned, the national conference we are thinking about. That at some point this year is part of our plan, and thank you, Kojo and Joy, for giving us this opportunity, because we think the media must become a major part of this campaign, must become a major partner in what we are trying to do, so that the idea that timekeeping is necessary, that lateness is unethical, these ideas, if we can get them to seep into our national psyche, then we'll be getting somewhere.
Thank you for that, Nana. And in fact, one thing is clear. I think everybody agrees that there is a need for some reward and sanction system. That is perhaps step one towards a solution to this. But there have been attempts in the past to solve this problem. We had the war against impunity, or the campaign against impunity by Vice President Aliyu Mahama. We had President Atta Mills, advocating punctuality. So if Uncle Ebo is to be believed, and he believes that the thing is from the top down, so if he's to be believed, then why is it that initiatives like that did not work? I mean, what were they lacking? Why is it that those things did not turn us into more of a timekeeping society?
I think we've all agreed on the fact that we need a mind change. It's more of a mind shift. I think that these initiatives were launched, if you ask me, like the typical political promises we see. People feel there's a problem, and leaders, genuinely see that there's a problem. They haven't thought through, but they feel that something must be done, and then they just go out and promise. Let's launch this, let's do this. And everybody is excited. Within 3 days, it fizzles out. Why? Because there's no plan to it. Because if there's plan, you will assign resources and you assign timelines. For all these campaigns that you've spoken about, we never saw the plan. So we've launched the campaign against indiscipline, the campaign promoting a clean environment. We started cleaning our streets, getting things out of gutters in markets and all that. Then we set up a Ministry of Sanitation. But what's the plan? What's the bigger plan? Where are the timelines? What are we supposed to achieve? How do we know that? So all we know is that once a month we're supposed to come out and clean gutters. That's it.
Yeah.
But if people don't have that mind shift and they don't know where they are going, because there's no certainty about what we want to achieve, then everybody just gets carried away at the initial stages. We all go back into our daily lives. So I think that decision has to be made. And that is why, we started gradually. And at the time we even launched this, Kujo, we were thinking very big. we thought about partnering with the National Development Planning Commission at the time. And when we launched with the Director General of the National Development Planning Commission. It's because of the change in, leaderships. So it stalled the project. And then our own timekeeping also suffered from the same thing. We went on hibernation. Of course, this is not our day job. It's an advocacy. I mean, like we said, we have a sociology background. We are thinking about society, and we have communications, and we think we can, use communications to change it. But recently, the benefits of a virtual society, a digital society, got us to think that, whilst waiting for this big change, why don't we start our conversations? Which is why we started the mini dialogues, so that we can start. And I'm saying that it may not be a big change, but it's making some small impact. Because, even for us ourselves, people say, are you good timekeepers? And we say the reason why we are doing this is because we want to be better. We want to be better because now, wherever we are going, we were here at 7:20. We woke up at 4:30 because we live in Sawem. We had to drop our daughter in school. We said, can you imagine that we are coming here to talk about time and we show up late? So by 7:20, because we know that, where we live is, we are coming from far away, as someone would say. And there's road construction every time. Those of us living close to Insawe, we are suffering twice because we've gone through this interchange. It was like 3 to 4 years of road construction, and we all thought, oh, hooray, we are happy, we are settled, the interchange is done. But did we think through the fact that people would, before you get to Insawe, there's life before the interchange and life afterwards. So we started again doing the construction, and we are going through the traffic again. So I think there has to be a planning to something, which is why we want to do the national timekeeping dialogue. I'm sure Togbe will talk about it later.
Yes,
just
we'll talk a bit about that at the end of our conversation. In 2 minutes, I'm going to open the phone lines because I want to hear from you as well. But just before that, there's something on my mind. Togbe, is it that... Okay, let me give the example first. So in my message from the Morning Man today, I talked about the VGMAs of 2016. VGMAs are notoriously late.
I remember.
Notoriously late. They sometimes start 4-5 hours after the start time. And it goes on to 2-3 a.m. sometimes. But in 2016, they started on time, finished on time. Now, I remember when I was invited to present an award. The person who called me, this is before the event, called me and asked if I would do it. And I said, look, I don't want to come and sit there for 4 hours waiting to just go up on stage to do a 30-second job. You can't take 4 hours of my time to do a 30. So if that's what you're going to do, then I have to decline. And the gentleman said, oh, as for this year,
we will start
don't worry. We'll start on time because MTV is coming to film.
Wow.
And they are going to broadcast it live.
Wow.
So we have to start on time. My question is this. Even in our disability, are there some people whose time we respect more than others?
Yeah.
People turn up for Uncle Ebo's plays on time. They are not going there for money. There's no incentive. There's no reward. Well, of course, there's a reward. You are going for a good play. But they turn up on time because he has a reputation for sticking to time. Yeah. Like MTV has a reputation for sticking to time. Yeah. Does that make a difference sometimes in our ability to keep time? Nana is on the line.
I was also very eager to come in.
Nana, it's all yours.
Just one thing.
Yes.
They put Uncle Ebo's plays on time because they are rewarded with the play. If they go late, they are going to miss the play. So it's not only because they respect him, because he respects time. Still, the punishment and reward system is at work here. If you don't go on time, you pay money.
Miss the beginning,
and usually you pay probably in advance. And then you arrive and half the play is gone. So if you want to watch or see Uncle Ebo's play, then you better go on time.
Yeah.
So I think there too, the system works because of the reward you get in seeing the whole play. Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. In fact, let's open the phone lines. 0302 216 541 055 1111 997. We'd love to know what your solution is to Ghana's chronic inability to stick to time. Okay, 0302 216 541 055 1111 997. Erasmus is on the line from Kumasi. Erasmus, good morning.
Good morning, Pedro.
Talk to us, my brother.
Pedro, it's important you go this discussion. The question: what is the motivation coming from our leaders?
Okay.
There are people who kill themselves. I know somebody who leaves the house at 5 o'clock today. At the end of the day, he's giving a team to be taken home. He's been doing the job and see somebody within a matter of time who calls himself a parliamentarian. Just 4 years. He has worked just for 4 years. And you see the thing he has accomplished. He sit down and ask himself, what is the motivation for going to work today? So I think, because it's time our leadership start doing something. You see, there are a lot of people who are ready to make time with their work, but there is no motivation. And when an individual is not motivated to do something, I think it feels like after Adidome, let me relax. And again, look at our roads. You get your roads, and there is a chunk of traffic. In these modern times in Ghana, we have a single lane. And look at the number of cars we have on our road. How do you expect somebody living at Amasamai to get to work at maybe Accra Center at 8 o'clock? You can't have it. So I think we need to do something alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Erasmus. Let's come to Madina. Hello, Will. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning, Konyo. Yes. Thank you for the opportunity. We have a big problem, and sometimes you even conclude that solution is not closer. But you see, we are quick sometimes when things like this are happening to us. Sometimes we want to say it's cultural, but this thing's got nothing to do with culture. But it's just a matter of lack of planning and what really happened after 1966. You know, our fathers, before colonialism or before independence, let me put it that way, they plan everything they do. And it's timely. Time to wake up, time to get to farm, time to return. Nobody should mislead us and tell us that people were drumming from morning to evening. It is never done before the coming of the white. Everything was planned and orderly. Now, what happened? We were told that even at independence, buses were moving on time. There were state transport that were moving on time. So people get to the bus stations on time, they get to work on time. Now let's just look at the planning around independence and during the Nkrumah days. Cantonment, Ridge were all residential, places that civil servants and public servants were working closer to their workplace. Now you and I, we are like an hour to our workplaces. We drive. And what is the planning? What is the state of our roads? We were told that immediately Nkrumah was thrown, the entire system was overthrown. And what happened after? Did we have the buses? Did we continue with the planning? No. And as a result of the military intervention and all that, it affected everything today. So it looks like the only way things can change is for us to either move to or start building a new capital, start building new metropolitan capitals. Until that is done, there is no way, even sometimes you wake up very early.
I know what you're saying, Will. Thanks for that. Let's take a few more calls. Enoch is on Spintex. Hi, Enoch. Good morning.
Hi, Kujo. Good morning.
This matter.
Sorry, Kujo. I have actually paid dearly. No, I'm still actually paying dearly for being doing the right thing and being very confident. To build a business development and the way you present yourself, your approach, the way you speak, and the way your mindset is very key to this when you're in sales and marketing. I worked I can't mention the company's name, in a pharmaceutical company, whereby, I was rising very fast because of my approach, how I drive my team, and the results kept coming. There were some very old guys in the business who've been working there for like 15, 20 years. And it was like, we hear the CEO is going to Lake BB, empty. I joined this government not so long, less than 2 years. And because of my mannerism, my approach to time, respect for value, people, money, stuff like that, you could see the transformation. One day I just got a letter of termination. They gave no reason, stating that the contract says that each party can decide to pick one person. No, that kind of thing. It's like that. So, it's a long story. I'm just trying to say that when you are in an environment where there is more or less, let's say, like mediocrity, or they do not appreciate great mind, strong mind, some of these things can happen to you. And as I speak to you, though I'm working, but I'm working at a place where I take 4 times less what I was taking.
Wow.
Being at the top management level, it's so extremely difficult to get another job. And it has really, really affected myself, my family, reputation, dignity, so much so that it is. So when Uncle was talking about this, I could actually relate.
Has affected our attitude.
Hello?
It does not just affect just one person. It goes to affect the society so much in so many ways that I decided to try as much as possible to call and share this story.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, sometimes when you stick to principles, that's when you actually get penalized. What a strange society we have. Joseph is in Tema. Joseph, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Kojo. How's you doing? Well?
Not bad at all, Joseph.
Oh, okay. I'm also very well. I think it's a very serious topic that you are discussing. And I think the issue is there should be punishment and there should be reward. One thing is, we don't take time seriously. That's why we are underdeveloped. You see, when you say time is money, I need to finish this meeting within a particular time. Go and finish another meeting somewhere. Go and work for some hours to get the money. If I'm not able to be there on time, the work cannot be done. But one thing is, where people are living, going for their job, is another issue. So sometimes people are compared to get closer to where they are working so that they can report on time.
Yeah.
And also, I go with one of your guests that our vehicular traffic situation is also creating a very big problem. But that kind of, this is our own people working in government institutions are also doing well. Because I know of a certain custom officer. She will come to work on, 12 o'clock. When the boss asks, so I went to the enclave, which means the export section. But when you go to the enclave, you will not find her. Why don't we put certain standards and systems so that wherever you say you are or reported for duty, you are going to be seen or it's known? You know, some few companies are using this kind of when you come to work, you have to clock.
Yeah.
I think it's happened. So for me, rewarding and punishing will be the first issue to be tackled. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Joseph. Let's take one more call. Chidiak is in Southla. Hi, Chidiak. Long time.
Yes, Kojo, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, this problem, I see this way. Ingratitude of the Ghanaians. Too much liberalism. And then lack of punishment. And with high corruption, which is benefiting the individuals in the country. That is why it is going like this. And leadership, no punishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidiak. Thanks to all of you who called this morning. Listen, let's get quick final thoughts from our guests in the studio on this matter of Ghana Man Time. Togbe Agyeman, the fifth, Nana, Jan Appenteng, and Georgina Fiagbenu. Let's get final thoughts, Georgina.
Well, the problem seems to be very complex and big, but we've all, reinforced the fact that if we want to be early, we would be early, which gives us the assurance and the hope that something can be done. Because if, we have to arrive early at an interview and we will not be late, there's a benefit and there's a cost of not, getting that employment or flying, then you will be early. It means that we have to find ways of rewarding and sanctioning people to get them to be on time. Time for work, time for activities, time for project implementations and achievement of objectives, time to respond to customer issues, because the problem is not just about you. It's about how it impacts people. Time is life. Actually, when we had our last session, Captain Abuabin said he doesn't believe that time is money. He thinks time is life. And it's really true. We don't have time to go into a lot of it. The first discussion we had Nana Appenteng, and he said, who knows the number of accidents we have in Ghana? Do you know how many of them is due to the lack of respect for time? Because people are always rushing because they are late.
Exactly.
We all know we are late. We are late. Driver, Appenteng. We are always telling the drivers to hurry. This driver there, on kokra, and all that. So, time is indeed life. It's not just about money. It's our whole existence is dependent on time, and we need to do better. I think Togbe needs to talk about our national discussion coming up in May.
Sure.
And we would like to invite you, multimedia. Let me just also say thank you for getting this visibility for us. It's something that we've been praying for, and we hope that other media houses will come on board. We are looking forward to the day that a media house will say on the 6th of March is National Timekeeping Day, and the whole of the month of March is not National Timekeeping Month. And what do we do on that day? We are all watching, reporting, talking about time, observing and, talking about the people who are keeping time and the people who are not keeping time. If we do it consistently, things will change. Let me just say that Uncle Ebu White, in all our dialogues, everybody has commended him. He's one person that almost every time someone will use him as an example. I have a few people who, through the dialogues we've had, have told us that they've changed the way they do their events. I myself went to the North Martha Inspires Foundation. She had about 2,000 students there. She said she was going to start at 9. I got there at 9:05 in Tamale. The place was packed full, and they started at 9. So we can do it. We can. Thank you.
Togbe.
Thank you very much, Kojo. I think it's been a very interesting discussion. Of course, the time is not enough. We wish we would have touched on some other things as well. So the key things that came out from our dialogue sessions were everybody keep pointing to leadership, making the decision that I need to make this thing work on time. Leadership here, my understanding is that it's not only talking about political leadership, and that is why some of us, as TLC, that's the Transformational Leadership Concept, have decided that we need to show leadership and engage the politicians and the entire Ghanaian citizenry, so that we see this as a national issue. And once we all come to that realization, we will embrace it. And for us, what we're thinking to do is to have a national dialogue. That's why we're making it a national issue. We are thinking of bringing all stakeholders. I mean, of course, central of them will be the government, policy makers, and then the policy implementers as well, and the entire Ghanaian society. Let's sit down and come out with workable plan and say that we want to execute this, that. If it is necessary to legislate, to bring a legislation to make sure that this thing works, insofar as we know that these can help us, I mean, in terms of our resources and help us financially, I mean, we should embrace it. And after we've had the dialogue, we've had the national discussion, we will come up with another phase where we'll be doing campaign. So that will be the campaign area. That is where the media is also needed, I mean, keenly. And then key issues will be, I mean, other key activities will be, will be rolled out. So naming and shaming is one of them, as I've said. And we need ambassadors, we need people on board who would, anytime they mount platforms, in events, at events, I mean, be it national or maybe private events and the rest, people should be talking about it. Can we also find a way of, we know that our school systems already has, this, anytime you come to school too late, you are punished. But can we advance the discussion even in our school as well? So that we can train the younger ones, make sure we inculcate this in them, and so that as they grow, they look at time as life. And so to run up, we just want to say that we're inviting everybody. We want everybody. We want to make this as a movement. Ghanaians coming together to form this movement to transform this.